we have to talk about the biggest story of the NCAA tournament. Coach K's retirement tour lives on for another weekend. T.O., I know you are thrilled to talk about Coach K retiring and this Duke team surviving, but let me ask you this. After watching them blow a lead and then come back from 5 down in the final 5 minutes, are you feeling good about the Blue Devils right now?
I mean, it was gut check time. But guys, have they really shown us what we didn't already know? They've got dudes that can finish out games. And whenever you're in a close, tight ball game like that one, Paolo Banchero can make things happen for you. Wendell Moore, who I thought, his stats didn't scream out at you. I thought he was really good. And they've got Jeremy Roach, who lately, guys, like he's been Mr. Consistent for Duke. He shot the ball well, hit a big 3 there at the end to get them back on top. This Duke team, they're as good as advertised. And everybody, including myself, is a little sick of the Coach K retirement tour, but we're going to have to live with it for about 2 more weeks, I think, because these guys are really, really talented. Getting out of conference, I think, refreshed Duke a little bit because now they can play to their strengths a little bit more. They're not getting nooked and crannied or pick that by opposing ball coaches. Now they're just out there playing, and I think that's a big part of it. Duke's really good, and they're going to keep playing. Kudos to Michigan State. I thought they played really well. I thought they showed really well. They had some guys play, was it Greg Brown? Greg Brown, right? Am I going crazy?
Gabe Brown,
excuse me. Greg Brown. Yeah, Gabe Brown, man. He ended up having a really good year. I thought he could be up there in that 12, 13-point range, and he showed well tonight. That Michigan State team gave them all they could, but Duke, they're so talented, and they're going to keep winning.
I think Michigan State has big game players, right? I don't think this has been a great Michigan State team, but I felt all year that in big spots that AJ Hoggard and Tyson Walker have made plays. They've just like stepped up and gotten to the basket and hit tough shots. And they were the reason, I think, as much as anything, that this team was in that game. I mean, obviously Bingham was really good. Brown, you mentioned, had a really nice night, but this team wasn't there without the point guards, and those point guards made some really huge shots to keep them in that game. But at the end of the day, it was Duke's point guard and Jeremy Roach who had, I think, the biggest shot of the game. That 3 that he hit was so huge. And I think for this Duke team, because you have so many guys who can play with the ball in their hands. You have Paolo, who I think is probably best when he has it. You have Moore, who I think has been really good. Guys who can just be steady and make shots and make good decisions when they have it in their hands, like Roach, are so valuable. And I thought he played his role tremendously well today in a huge spot. I think you saw the emotion from Coach K kind of coming off the court, that he knew that they got a real punch. I mean, a real punch from a very good Michigan State team that has been in some big spots in their careers. And his young basketball team stepped up.
The concern with this Duke team for me is, how are they going to handle the moment? How are they going to handle the pressure of, wow, this might be the end of Coach K's career. Wow, you might get knocked off by a 7 seed in the second round of the NCAA tournament. Wow, you might blow this thing. And they were doing it. It was happening, right? I think that there was, at one point, they were up by 8 in the second half, and Michigan State goes on this big run, and they end up taking a 70-65 lead. And it's right there. The end is happening. The end is near. We're watching this team give away another lead. We're watching this team melt down the stretch the same way that it did against North Carolina. And then they didn't. And then Paolo took over and went to the basket and just said, look, I'm the biggest and strongest dude on this court. I'm going to go make a shot right here. Did it 2 or 3 times in a row. Jeremy Roach then hit that 3. And it just felt like in that moment, T.O., tell me if I'm wrong here, but it felt like in that moment, they kind of exercised some demons a little bit there.
I think the big thing was, this might be crazy to say, but I think they've been relieved of some pressure by the fact that they're no longer playing at Cameron. So the fact that they're out on the road, everybody's part of the same amount of hoopla. The Coach K thing's kind of been lost in the weeds because of all the games. Now, it's obviously still a big talking point for them, but I think there's been less of it because I think there was a hill that was climbed after that bad performance. It was like, okay, the worst is out of the way. Now, worst case scenario, we lose and it's done, as opposed to, man, there's Grant Hill over there. Christian Leitner's there. Jay Billis is upstairs. Like there was so much pressure on that one game. I thought a lot of those guys were like, hey, it's not going to get any worse than that. But they stepped up big time. Paolo Banchero just took it. He took the game into his own hands. I thought he was really, really good. I can't get over Jeremy Roach, though. Like, this is a guy that a lot of people were picking at earlier in the season, and he's just done his job. and he's done it really well. And man, is he quick with the ball in his hands. And like Sweeney said, like when you have multiple guys that can make something happen off the bounce, and Duke has that now more so with Jeremy Roach. He's fully healthy. He's been playing great. Like they're really dangerous, especially at the end of clock.
Are you worried about their defense at all? Because that's one thing, like I keep expecting them and wanting them to be a great defensive team. And I just don't think that they are.
Well, they rely so much on individual defense. They've always done that. Now, especially since the one and done era started, because they have a bunch of young guys, so they have to stay in front. And they do rely a lot on Mark Williams down there in the post. And what happens if they've played teams like a Miami with a Sam Wardenberg that can pull out and stretch out that 5-man, like they can struggle because then everything opens up in the middle and they're not help heavy. If you get past your initial defender, you can beat Duke if Mark Williams is not in that paint. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't necessarily worry about it because I think on the other end, they're going to be able to overwhelm you also. But this Duke team, if Mark Williams is away from the basket, it can be an issue.
Yeah, I worry about it. I think though, I think, they get 1.2 points per possession today against a Michigan State offense that, do they have a high level pro on that team? I mean, you think Christie eventually, but he's a long way away. Like, I think it's concerning. I think for me, like at the end of the day, like with the physical tools that those guys have, right? With Keels, with Moore, with Bencaro, like Griffin. I mean, these guys are all long, athletic dudes who can move their feet, and you'd expect these guys to be able to contain the ball. And I just feel like so many times these guys have gotten beat off the bounce, lately. And I think, again, part of that today was like Hogard was just making plays, and I've watched him get by a lot of guys that it doesn't kind of make sense because he's kind of bigger body, but he just finds a way into the lane. But I mean, it's been a consistent issue. Virginia Tech killed them. I mean, Virginia Tech, cut and diced up that defense. And, before that, they had some defensive struggles against Syracuse and obviously the North Carolina game. Like there have been a lot of cracks in this Duke defense lately. And I think I worry about that once they play against an elite basketball team. Michigan State's good. They're not elite, right? You're staring down Texas Tech in the next round. Texas Tech guards the heck out of you. I mean, Duke's not going to be able to put 80 on Texas Tech. So how do they respond? How does their defense respond? Can they slow down a team and win on the defensive end? Can they do enough on that end of the floor? And I think that question is still open for answering right now.